it's a great time to be a fan of D2 football. With that being said, let's take a look at the bracket. The bracket remaining for D2 football, the Sweet 16, the only squads that are left in the national dance. Here they are, man. If you follow us on the socials, you saw this one already. But these are the standings after week 1 of the playoffs. And I've got just kind of some notes, some cliff notes to go through here for each of the super regions. And I guess my biggest overall note, if you look at this this graphic here, it was really business as usual in the first round for Division 2, unless you were Super Region 4. Central Washington, Bemidji State pulling off 2 pretty big upsets we'll get to later. But let's start numerically. Super Region number 1, Kutztown. Not only a strong defensive team, we've seen that. Obviously, the performance against Slippery Rock in the PSAC championship, they were dialed in. But this team is dominant, and I think all 3 phases of the game, if you follow us on the socials, once again, you saw some of what this team was able to do. This team is really performing at a very high level. And then you talk about their opponent in Virginia Union in the first round. It becomes a question for me, does the CIAA just not stack up to conferences like the PSAC? I think there's a little bit of that there. I don't believe the conference is nearly as deep as the PSAC is. But I do believe at the end of the day, like, Kutztown is just that good. So I don't think it really necessarily is a bad reflection of the conference. I think Kutztown is just a very quality football team, and I don't think people maybe have given them the credit, maybe myself included, maybe we haven't given them the credit that they deserve. You look at some of these highlights. These are all from the first quarter against Virginia Union. They came out swinging, the Bears did. You look here, they get things started with a little bit of a trickery piece here, the reverse. That got things going for them. They already had a score on the board. That gets them even to a further lead. And then not only a few minutes later, I do believe in the first quarter still, closing the first, Virginia Union looking to punt. That one gets swatted away. They pick it up in the end zone, and they're going to score that one to extend their lead to 21. And this is where things really started to get out of hand for Virginia Union. I think they put the game away at this point. Those 2 plays felt like huge momentum shifts for that Kutztown Bears offense and special teams, respectively. But, like I said, I think this team deserves a lot of credit. They've got a really big-time match against Charleston this week, and we'll see kind of what happens there. Offensively, Judd Novak did a great job. Daryl Davis McNeil, had a great day on the ground. But nothing too crazy. I think they were just very efficient. Their defense obviously stepped up big time. And there was a quote I saw. This is going to be a little more controversial side of things. The quote I saw said, quote, Kutztown University showed the difference in facilities of HBCU teams versus well-funded teams. Due to this, Virginia Union was overpowered. I don't like that. I really don't like that. Yes, I understand Kutztown, a pretty rich history over there football-wise. They do have some very nice facilities. Virginia Union, and this is not from a Virginia Union rep or whatever. This is just from some media outlet online. But if you're going to look at this game and tell me that the difference was that Kutztown had nicer facilities, that's why they got dog-walked, you can't say, you just can't say that. That's not a fallback card. I don't understand playing that card of the facilities are the matter of the difference here. Like, Kutztown dominated this game. There wasn't any metric they did not dominate. Virginia Union was only giving up 37 rushing yards per game. They had the number 1 rushing defense in the nation. Kutztown goes in there and ran for over 200. I don't care what facility, what turf, what grass you're running on. If you get ran for 200, you're not having a great shot of winning the game. It's a 38-14 game, and let's be honest, it was 35-7. Like, this game, it was 28-0. Like, this game could have gotten very much worse. I don't know. I thought that was a cop-out. I forget who said it, or maybe I'm just saving them on here, but I thought that was a cop-out. I don't think that's necessarily the case at all. I think this Kutztown team just deserves a little bit more respect. They're playing at a great clip right now. Otherwise, Slippery Rock, still very much the team to beat, I think. Right? I think we'll see. Obviously, they have the matchup coming up against 1-seeded Tiffin in this next round, but when you look at their first-round matchup, and I'm pulling up the video here shortly, don't worry, against East Stroudsburg, who has every right to be considered one of those top playoff squads. Coming out of the PSAC, they boasted a pretty solid record. But when you see what Slippery Rock, especially offensively, was able to do against this Warrior squad from ESU, you start to think that Slippery Rock is very much the team to beat in Super Region number 1. That's not a shot to Tiffin. I do believe, I think I said on past episodes, that if Slippery Rock does not lose, how about that little trickery there on the fake punt? By the way, I freaking love that to close out the first quarter. Oh, that's so sick. And he goes in for the score. But if Slippery Rock does not lose in that PSAC championship game to a Kutztown team that we're giving all the flowers in the world to right now, they are very much the one seed in this region. So I think you have to keep that in perspective. And while Tiffin might be the favorite and like on the spread or any kind of metrics this week, I think this Slippery Rock team going on the road is poised to have a major upset against the Dragons. Again, all the credit in the world to Tiffin. They've got some very quality wins in the year, and they're perfect. They have not lost, and they've earned that one seed. So I don't want to take anything away from them. That man right there, Kyle Sheets, been a dog all year for Slippery Rock. They got a lot of big-time, more high marquee players. He's been one of them. He's put up some insane stats throughout the entire year. But this game, very competitive. You can see it here in the first half. Slippery Rock would end up kind of running away with it. I shouldn't say maybe running away with it, but winning in a pretty deciding fashion. 45-14. Yeah, they ran away with it. I'll take that back. They ran away with this thing. For considering how close this game was early on, credit to Slippery Rock, right? And we talk about this with Pitt State later on. This feels like a team that, you're not going to let a team like East Stroudsburg stick around. When you have the opportunity to, put them in the dirt, put them away. And this Slippery Rock team did a very good job of doing just that. So I think there's a lot to be encouraged about if you are a Rock fan. They're playing very good football right now. Finally, Charleston. They survive a shootout with New Haven. Does not bode well for Kutztown there. Their round 2 poll, their matchup that they have. You look at this game. Charleston, the Golden Eagles, they pull out a 52-44 victory. And the biggest number for me, New Haven had not scored 44 all season long until Saturday. And there are alarm bells going off in my head. You're going up against Kutztown, which has the potential to be one of the best, probably one of the best defenses in the country, definitely one of the better defenses in Super Region number 1. And you just let up 44 points to a team that had not scored that much until this weekend. Playing in the NE10, by the way, they don't play a lot of great teams in that conference, and you just let up a season high for them. Charleston's offense, a lot of great things to talk about. Siobhan Wright in the backfield. There's some really good things going on in their run game. Their defense needs to definitely be locked in for this Saturday matchup. I'm pretty scared for them, but that's why you have to suit it up. You still have to suit it up and play ball. Super Region 2, Lenore-Rhine back to being dangerous. It feels like that loss to Wingate, potentially a one-off for the Bears, who are playing, once again, at a very good clip here. And again, early success from the Bears over Shepherd University. We'll take a look at it right there. They get things started here, and I'll give it a quick, just replay, but quarterback keeper there, get things going at Lenore-Rhine. That game kind of environment looked really great. Lenore-Rhine's offense was not afraid to take shots either on the day. You're going to see it right here with this drop back. Absolute missile down the middle of the field. Shepherd felt like they played a lot of middle field open. Just absolute problems. These guys on the outside, guys like Diari Rogers and some of the other skill players for the Bears, when you hear the announcers say, "To the land of milk and honey" about 4 times in the first half, you know you're in trouble. But this Lenore-Rhine team playing very well right now. And if you look at some of the stats from this one, this was our tweet. Make sure to follow us on the socials to get some of these updates. They finished the game 63-17, which is outrageous. And some big-time numbers. Sean White for Lenore-Rhine, 398 yards passing and 5 tuds in the day is ridiculous. Songa Yates with 141 yards through the air receiving, as well as Diari Rogers, like I just talked about, who had 91 and 2 touchdowns of his own. This offense is going to be very, very difficult to stop. Their next round matchup will obviously be an interesting one. But right now, Lenore-Rhine in this region is certainly a team to talk about. And if you look at actually that, I'm blanking on their next round matchup. Hold on. They will have Benedict, who is the 1 seed. That's correct. So Benedict coming off a bye week. Benedict has one of the better defenses in the country going against one of the better offenses in the country. So the classic case of the unstoppable versus the immovable, something along those lines. I'm kind of forgetting the expression off the top of my head here. But otherwise, in Super Region 2, Delta State, dominant over the Argos. And for me, I think the biggest takeaway from this game for Delta State is they shut the hell out of John Giles. This guy, we have seen him do so much through the air for this West Florida offense. I mean, it won't let me pull up his stats here on the season for whatever reason, but only 5 catches for him, 46 yards, and you might think, oh, that's a decent game. This dude has been exploding for 100 to 200 yards per game almost at every single stretch throughout the year. Their one loss inside of Gulf South played, who I believe it was West Bell, Alabama for West Florida. He still had over 100 yards and a TOD on the day. So the fact that the Delta State secondary stepped up, I think, is huge for them. Patrick Shegog, 19 for 25, 318, and 6 touchdowns to no interceptions. Somebody say MVP? That man is balling. Shegog is balling over there for the Statesman. A little bit of a drink break for me. But this Delta State team, I mean, there's a ton to be encouraged about. Like, they played a very great brand of football. And when you look at some of these stats, too, like, they're still rushing the ball. They had 130 yards on the day as a team. You know, very efficient through the air. Like we talked about, the total offense was fantastic. And you look at just kind of the control of the game. I think very even time possession, but the defense for Delta State stepping up. They held West Florida 4 of 13 on third down and 0 for 2 on fourth. So timely plays defensively for the Statesmen, kind of the sticking point of this one for me. And Valdosta, on the other side of things, they might be all the way back. Their offense is scary. Sammy Edwards, another guy who's getting it done through the air for the Blazers. Talk about an offensive shootout, 62-41 over Limestone, and he finished with 344 yards and 6 touchdowns. A lot of stuff going on for the Blazers, excuse me. Coach Tremaine Jackson over there and company. Feels like after a 1-year hiatus from the playoffs, they might be all the way back to be able to poise to make a run here. A lot of playoff experience down there in Titletown, Georgia, as he likes to call it. But they run into Delta State this next week. And, there's obviously some history there with splitting the Gulf South. They both shared a what's the word? They clinched a share. There it is. Share to clinch. They clinched a share of the Gulf South championship, respectively, which is interesting because Delta State owns the head-to-head. They beat Valdosta back in October, 49-25. At Valdosta, by the way, which is a huge win. So we'll see what can happen this next week. We've seen a lot of second-time matchups in the playoffs go a lot differently than their first-time counterparts. This one in Super Region 3, though, went very much the same way. How about a transition right there? GVSU, they do it again. Still should not have been a first-round game, but man, if you were watching D2 football this weekend and you did not watch this Grand Valley versus Ferris State game, I have a couple very good questions for you, and I'd be very curious to hear what you were doing other than that. Because when we look at this game and watching some of these highlights here as I pull them up, this seems like a very big play right here. Cardamone comes in and forces the fumble. That's recovered by Christian McCarroll. And then just a few plays later, you'll see Grand Valley's first score of the day here as Peterson hands it off to Tariq Reed, goes with the left side. He's got a couple of jump cuts and works his way into the end zone. Very complimentary football from the Lakers to get things started, obviously in front of a packed home house at Lubber Stadium. And they just continued to add on. It felt like this game might slip away for Grand Valley at certain points. The pass rush here, guys like Niles King who get into the backfield, the West Bloomfield product. This team was rolling. This Grand Valley defense was firing on all cylinders. You saw the GLIAC first team, all defensive team come out. It was basically the whole Lakers defense, at least that front seven, which was insane. Ferris State, though, credit to them. They find a way to claw back into this one. Down by a couple scores. They're driving with only 1:50 left. They lose the ball, and you think, okay, 1:50 left. This game's over. Grand Valley just has to, run it out, whatever. Fumble, touchdown, get the onside kick. This game literally came down to the last second, but was closed out on a sack by Grand Valley. And like I kind of talked about, the whole defense from Grand Valley, just scary. The front seven, I think, is going to match up especially well against Pitt State, who plays a very physical brand of football in the trenches. But again, if you're a Laker fan, there is a lot to be proud about right here from this GVSU defense especially. And a credit to the offense. Like, they got things going as well, but I think right now, for me, it's the defense that deserves a lot of the praise. Ferris State's defense also locked in. Both defensive coordinators were doing freaking numbers on Saturday. They were dialed in, ready for that matchup. But, we'll see. We'll see how it fares for the Lakers moving forward, coming out of what I believe is the toughest super region out of the four. And that brings me to Central Missouri, who is more than just an explosive offense. I think that's kind of what we talked about earlier with Zach Zabrowski, right? This team, 56-14 over a really solid Henderson State squad coming out of the GAC at home. And a lot to be really excited about if you're a Mules fan. But with that being said, the biggest test of the year versus Harding coming up off a bye week. Two really quality GAC opponents for Central Missouri here in the first couple rounds. But Pitt State, very much still that team. That's what it says in my notes right here. The Gorillas against University of Indianapolis, who only had one loss on the year, they handle them 35-14. And let me tell you, it wasn't even that close. It was 35-7 in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left, and UND gets a late score to make it look a little bit more interesting. And I think that's good growth from a Pittsburgh State team that we saw in the early half of the year. Let these kind of teams stick around, very much like Slippery Rock. They let these teams stick around, and then it became a little more competitive than maybe it should have been. This Pittsburgh State team is putting teams away right now, and that's very encouraging if you're Gus the Gorilla and company over there. But my biggest takeaway and I guess note for them heading into round number 2, can you do it on the road? You're not in the jungle anymore. They probably have one of the best home field advantages in the country. That stadium and that fan base just rallies around that team, that community does. But can they do it on the road? Can they do it in Lubber Stadium? We will find out, obviously, Kobe. Otherwise, let's go down Super Region number 4. Probably the biggest, I don't know if I'd say the biggest, one of the best performances from the weekend did not come from an individual player. In fact, it came from one side of the ball, that being Bemidji State's defense. The number 15 Beavers, they go down to number 10 UTPB. Imagine going from Minnesota all the way down to Texas and then balling out. Here's Kenny Hershner on the first drive for UTB being the Falcons. He dives, hits the pylon, touchdown. Oh, shit. Penalty, calls it back. Now they're trying to get something to happen. Throw it to the end zone. This is one of Bemidji State's first big plays of the day. Interception in the end zone for the Beavers. They were rolling. The defense played incredibly well for Bemidji State. They hold what has been probably one of the better offenses in Division II to only 3 points on the day on their home field. And freaking massive, nasty hit right there. That was awesome. Let me not cruise over that. But this Bemidji State team, although their offense certainly stuttered on the road, this is why people talk about, man, like defense travels, run game travels. This is a 10-3 gritty-ass game. Type of game that all these NSIC teams, honestly, are very used to. This is nothing new for Bemidji State. Their margin of victory has not been incredibly large, and they play some, oh my gosh, that was dirty. But they play some really quality teams through the regular season as well. There's the only points from the Falcons on the day. And not take anything away from the Falcons, they still put together a very quality season. Shout out to Coach McCullough and that staff over there. It feels like there's going to be a lot more exciting times for that program coming forward. But when you look at this game, and some of the stats here, man, Bemidji's a really good football team. They certainly are. They had 2 takeaways through the air from Kenny Hershner, who's been insane for UTPB. They get it done through the air quite a bit. Their offense obviously wasn't massive, making crazy plays, but you have, let's see, 7 pass breakups through the air, a ton of different quarterback hits, 2 sacks, a lot of TFLs, a lot of guys making plays all over the field from Bemidji State. Their defense certainly stepped up. UTPB did not have a receiver over 38 yards on the day, and their leading rusher was their quarterback. So stopping the run out of the backfield was big time for the Beavers, and they're poised certainly to have a big-time matchup against a team who also had a big-time upset. Central Washington, they go into Gunnison, Colorado, and play Western Colorado, a team that had a lot of hype around them. Their only loss in the year was the number 1 Mines team, and we didn't really know how this was going to fare. This game ends up coming down to literally the final minute. And if I pull up, I'll have to pull up the clip here to find it. If you follow us on Twitter, you already saw this one. But this game, we ended up not having it be decided in regulation. This goes into overtime over there in Colorado, and this is ultimately the play that would seal the deal for the Wildcats. The drop back in overtime. Bam! With the defensive holding or pass interference, I forget which one it was, this man goes up and makes the play of the game, which, by the way, this is coming off Western Colorado, and they got the ball first in overtime. They hit a field goal, so they do apply a little bit of pressure to this Wildcat offense. Man, what a play. Like, that was awesome to watch there, and I'm blanking on the guys' names here, but there you are. Kennedy McGill, the quarterback, connecting with Morrison on the reception. The 30-yard touchdown seals the deal for C-Dub, and what a game, man. What a final play. What a game. That Central Washington team has surprised a lot of people after they got kind of handedly beat in the Lone Star Conference Championship to a really solid UTPB team. Very interesting stuff there, but an absolutely wild finish, and they certainly earned that win. I'm going to try and find here the graphic they posted to Instagram, by the way, was, oh my God, it was hilarious. I'm pulling it up here right now so you guys can experience this as well. We put it on our Instagram story because I thought it was awesome. Here we have it. This was the post game for the Wildcats. This W, I'm assuming, is something from Western Colorado here, and you'll see they did a little bit of a minor tweakage to the W in the mountain. That's badass. Shout out the content team, the graphic designer over there for the Wildcats. That's sick. I would think, like, going into this, they had to have that idea. That's freaking awesome. But shout out Central Washington, man. Like, what a crazy game for them. They keep their playoff hopes alive. Bemidji State will host the second round matchup between those two. So we'll see what ends up going down there in Super Region 4. Finally, our last game, D2-wise, to talk about a little bit. Augustana, they showed the first time against Mankato was no fluke, right? They come out and honestly, they dominated this game. This game was 44-10 at one point. Obviously, Augustana, Minnesota State, Mankato on the road, and it really sucks for a team like Duluth that just beat Mankato and is watching this game from their couch thinking, man, we could have given them such a better game, which I'm sure that was the thought going through their head. This is a very quality Mankato team, though. I don't want to put anything past that. This Augustana team, the outright NSIC champions, man, they came out and showed out against Mankato, had a lot of really good things to be proud of. Casey Bauman, through the air was solid, but on the ground was also getting a lot of stuff done. And the defense for Augustana, this is it, man. 5 interceptions for that Augie defense in what was probably their best performance of the year. And it was 5 different dudes. Jake Polson, Jake Zeppelin, Hayden Wallace, you got Logan Leonard, and Peyton Buckley. 5 of them have interceptions, man. Not one dude getting it done. It's that whole defensive secondary for the Vikings just getting shit taken care of and standing on business, if you will, over there. The Augies, man, they are rolling right now. But with that being said, as much as I would like to give them their flowers, I do not want to be the team to catch Colorado Mines off a bye week. With that being said, you know, if there's a team that's going to give them a great shot, it might be Augustana. I certainly wouldn't count them out of that matchup, but like I said, I would not want to be that squad. Catching them off a bye week is certainly dangerous. But that's kind of it, man. Holy cow, I feel like I haven't stopped talking for forever. You're probably sick of hearing my voice here. Let's take one last look at the bracket before we transition over to the Division 3 side of things with Jimmy Martin. And this is your last look kind of at the Sweet 16 and how it shakes out. We will probably have a live game day show here on Saturday. Stay tuned to the socials to hear about that. But this D2 side of things, man, I think this round 2 is going to get very interesting. We only saw a couple upsets in round 1. You can bet your ass there's going to be a lot more of those in round 2. So thanks for sticking around with me, listening to all the things I have to say about Division 2. You'll hear less of me yap, in the next couple segments. Let's go over to Jimmy Martin and the Division 3 side of things.